Welcome back to Press Box. On the show today, we have former NHLer, number 2 pick in the 81 draft, Doug Smith. Doug, thanks for being on the show today.
So great to be here, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
This is great. Wow, we've been researching your resume offline, and boy, it's quite the extensive resume. Like number 2 in the draft. I got so many questions to ask you about hockey, but also I want to talk about how you're helping your fellow athletes through your platform called Doug Smith Performance. That's very exciting, Doug. So thank you.
Wow, it's my pleasure to be on here and to talk about where things are going and to see if we can help more people, right? Just do better in the world. That's all I'm focused on is doing better myself, a little better every day, and then helping other people just do a little better every day. And if we do that, we'll get out of the situation we're in right now.
Well, you have such an inspiring story. So we'll get into that a little bit down the road. I could talk to you for about 3 hours, but we only have about 22 minutes, but okay. We're going to have to bring you back. So let's talk about, obviously the most exciting thing in your life to other people, to hockey fans, right, is the draft, right? Like number 2 in the draft. Leading up to the draft in 1881, let's tell them who went first. Dale Hawerchuk, worldwide superstar, right? Leading up to the draft, like say 3 months into ending the season, did you have an inkling? Did you know? Tell us how you were feeling.
To get to the NHL, there's more guys, more talent that never made it, that ever did. My second season in junior, after being drafted as an underage, everything that was shot towards the net bounced off me and went in for about 4 months. And I went from 20 to 6 to 2, and it was just tip-ins and just being in the right place and having the right guys. And I was just a lucky one. I was just very fortunate to have the people around me that I had around me.
Speaking of people around, that's what I really like to get to. I really like to dig into, like, what were your mom and dad thinking? What were your best friends in your neighborhood who weren't hockey players, but you grew up? What were they thinking? Like,
wow, my mom built my belief system, right? And I mean, in junior, she used to drive from Ottawa to Windsor to watch one game and then drive home after the game. Like, so because she knew the power of somebody related to you being in the stands, whether it's a mother, father, grandfather, just somebody you can look up at that's cheering just you on. Not everybody in the stands is against you. And so that's what my mother did to me. She just committed to that. And I miss her. I miss her a lot.
Hockey mom, right? Hockey moms are the best, right? Aren't they?
Yeah.
And how about some of your close friends growing up? What were they saying to you?
Well, it was when you're in high school and this is happening to you, you have no idea because your level of awareness in high school, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you're thinking about girls and having fun. I mean, that's all. So
how did you balance it too? So when you were going, like when you knew you were on your way to an NHL career, how did you keep the temptations away? Like as a teenager?
Wow, as a teenager getting to LA, it was hard, right? To stay alive because I went into that jungle when I was 18 years old. And the situation in LA wasn't like it is today for 18-year-olds. So this was the first year of the 18-year-old draft. So they put me in the Airport Park Hotel in Inglewood, California, and they left me there for 2 months. And it was a bad part of town, and I didn't know what a bad part of town was. And until I got robbed by a guy I picked up hitchhiking in Inglewood, California, in my Porsche. That's how unaware I was. Seriously, I was just from the west end of Ottawa, sort of in the country, and then one day I'm in Los Angeles without my mom, and I got drafted underage into junior in my hometown. So I was still living at home until 18, and then boom, I'm in LA.
And so, so take us to LA. So you said you lived at the airport
at the Airport Park Hotel until I found a place to live. But if you know that movie that's on right now about Jerry Buss and the LA Kings, it's on Netflix. Okay, people talk to me. They say, "Did you see this film?" I said, "Yeah, I saw the film because that's the 5 years I was in Los Angeles. So our dressing room was attached to the LA Lakers dressing room."
Wow.
And we shared a shower for a short period of time. And you don't want to get caught in the shower with, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, all these guys. We were just sort of interrelated. And Jerry Buss owned both teams. So his daughters, he was a playboy. Yeah. So he had 2 daughters. And I was good friends with his younger daughter, and Jay
Jake
Wells on the
Wells,
team,
yeah.
his older daughter. So we were always up at Pickford Mansion, getting into trouble. What
Wow. That's so did you when you were with LA, did anybody, any of the veterans, did you have like a mentor? Did one of them take you under their wings, like Marcel or Gary or Simmer or Dave
it,
Taylor?
it, Dave Taylor was unbelievable with me. He tried to control that, like the impulse in me, right? Because I was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, right? And my mom put me in meditation and not on medication. So I was really hard to control because they let me lose control. That was a positive thing in hockey.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so
That's true. Yeah.
Dave Taylor helped me out, but a lot of times I was just scrapping my way. I was scrapping my way and trying to do it my way. And when I look back, I really didn't utilize the experience in the room because I was just a sort of a bull in a china shop. And I put my head on my hands sometimes and wonder why I behaved that way. But I didn't know anything else.
Doug, these stories are just like who was the Rogie was gone? Was Rogie gone?
Rogie was there for a short
Rogie was
time. He
there.
coached the team, and then he moved into general manager position. And then finally, after having 4 coaches in 5 years and having to testify in court, against Don Perry as a 19-year-old kid, and then he got fired, and they hired Pat Quinn, and for the first time in 5 years, somebody sat me down. Pat Quinn sat me down, like Pat Quinn could sit anybody down, and he said, "I just want to help you get whatever you want to get."
Wow. Isn't that nice, eh?
And I was like, I had never experienced anything like that before. And I said, Pat, I've been here for 4 years. I'm dying. I asked to be traded 2 years ago. I went public in Toronto. I got raked through the coals in the media. I got to get out of here. It's killing me. And he said, okay. And then Scotty Bowman stepped in, the winningest coach of all time. He traded for me, and believe it or not, he picked me up at the airport. And on the way from the airport to the hotel, he told me, this was after 5 years in LA and dying. I was a healthy scratch. I wasn't even on the ice. He told me he'd been trying to trade for me for 4.5 years. And then he thought I could be one of the best centermen in the National Hockey League. And the next night, the first game with the Buffalo Sabres, I scored 13 seconds into my first game, and I was the
That's a
star.
great impression.
I, the next 5 games, my line got 27 points, and we were the number 1 line in the National Hockey League. Mike Foligno, Doug Smith, and Paul Sear. And I went from a healthy scratch, and this is what I talk about in my presentation. I was non-functional, but it wasn't physical, it was mental in LA. And when I got traded and Scotty gave me that belief again that I had when I was a child, it transferred like right away. There was no hesitation. I went out and
Wow.
scored. And we had this really great relationship until we had a falling out. And I've talked to Guy Lafleur. I talked to Larry Robinson. I've talked to Pete Mahovlich. He had this funny relationship, with his players. So we had a falling out, and then I ran into him again in Pittsburgh when I was with the Pittsburgh Penguins playing with Mario, and he became director of player operations, and he just put a line through my name, and I was like, okay, off to Europe.
Wow. Well, you did hear that about Scotty. Like he was a little different. I mean, obviously he
Yeah.
produced, but he had his own formula. So let me ask you a couple of questions. So you went from LA. So I got a couple of like questions. So as you formed your NHL career, was there one player in the league who you would have considered your best friend, say, or one of your closest friends?
Yeah, for the time in LA, like it was so important that I had protection and help when I was in Los Angeles, and Larry Murphy was the guy.
Murphy, eh? Well, we all know Larry. Like, you have so many connections in
We
Toronto. Larry Murphy, Pat Quinn, like they're both Toronto guys too, right? So this is great.
Yeah, no, Larry Murphy was always there. He was always supportive. He traveled light. You know what I mean? He was a great listener, and I needed a listener because I was always going a million miles an hour, right? And so yeah, so that's my call,
He
right
was a
from the heart. I didn't know you were going to ask that question, by the way,
and he
so it's
was a
hard.
he was a stud in LA then at that time, was he not?
Well, he was a year older than
Yeah,
me, and he calmed things down. He's a very calm guy. Like made friends with everybody he played with. What a career he had. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Just so proud of
So
him.
how about on the other end now? Did you have a rival who you just hated to play against because he just punished you or just stuck you or just
Somebody might remember the name Kenny Linsman. Yeah, because I played with Buffalo. He played for Boston. So Kenny and I, there's many pictures with my stick like 2 inches from his face or his stick 2 inches from my face.
Well, the rat, right? The rat. Yeah, the rat.
Yeah, you knew had to know how to sword fight if you were going to play against Kenny.
So was that before he went to Philly or after?
No, I was with Buffalo. So I was with
No,
Los Angeles for 5.
Kenny. Was that?
Oh, that was that would have been, well, I played against him in Philly
Yeah, so it
too,
would have
so
been before, right?
it didn't
He went to
matter. Yeah, it
Boston,
was that that was the decade I was there, right? Like right with him. And I learned to skate like his brother Johnny. Johnny didn't get the accolades that Kenny did, but I played with Johnny in junior. And he was the fastest skater in junior, and I had a wide choppy stride. And I used to watch him do the race in Ottawa, where there used to be this race to win Brute shaving cream.
Yeah.
And I mirrored him. I learned how to skate like him. And then within 18 months, I had learned how to skate like John Linsman. And so I tell kids today, anybody can do it. You just got to be able to focus on something that you want to achieve and watch it over and over and over and over. And that'll translate from the brain right into the body.
Wow, this is amazing what you're sharing. Like I said, I know you got just golden stories, so this is good. Is there somebody that you sort of really remember, maybe a mentor or a coach or even a fellow player that really stuck to you with some good advice? Like I guess a tip to how to get better in life and in hockey from a coach, maybe.
It'd be Pat Quinn, because when I got traded to Vancouver from the Edmonton Oilers, by the way, I'll talk about that if you want later. Pat Quinn traded for me again and got me back. So there you go.
Wow. So let's go.
There you go.
So you went from LA to Buffalo.
Yeah, Edmonton, and then 3 years in Buffalo,
Vancouver.
and then I went from Buffalo to Edmonton when Gretzky went from Edmonton to LA. It was within a month. So I started that season. You can look in the stats. I started that season with Curry and Simpson, Wayne's line. I scored the first goal of the season. We beat the New York Islanders 5-2, and I was on the front page of the Edmonton. It was like I was reborn. And then it was like, okay, well, you haven't scored like 50 points in the first 25 games.
Wow.
Because those boots, I mean, I played against them. And not only that, when you move into a dressing room where you've played 40 games against guys in many playoff series, it's hard to get along.
Yeah.
And I came in as a lone guy going in, like just out of nowhere. Here comes Doug Smith to play center.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so on LA, who was the best player on your team that in your mind?
Well, Marcel.
Marcel. Okay, so
Marcel, and the reason he was the best player is because he could stick handle but skate straight up the ice, and if you got in his way, he would break something on your body. He was like a fast moving tank. Right, like super powerful legs and really like you couldn't lift his stick if you were behind him and he didn't know you were there and you tried to lift his stick.
Really, eh?
No, he's just like rock solid, right?
He might be the most underrated NHL star of all time. Like really?
He was so talented. People don't understand that. I was with him for 5 years. He did not leverage the talent around him.
No.
He didn't know how to do that. He grew up in a small town. He was a superstar from the time of like 7 years old or 8 years old, just like Mario, right? Mario. Okay, so he didn't need to leverage talent around him. It didn't make any difference to him. It's just give me the puck, go here, and it's like.
Okay, let's move on to Buffalo. The best player that you played with on Buffalo.
Gilbert Perreault. I assisted on his 500th goal. Dave Anderchuk and I were carrying him around the rink. I have a beautiful picture, high resolution. It's absolutely gorgeous. So he used to pick me up at my house and drive me to the rink. After Scotty Bowman told me he loved me on the way from the airport, I used to get picked up by Gilbert Perreault every day in his old rickety Jeep. He's got one of these Wagoneer Jeeps that he used to drive. It was like 15 years old.
He just oozed class. Like I don't know who he is. Like, he just oozed, like Gilbert, but just class.
It's magical. To see the guy move, he the way he stick handled was the way he operated in life.
Okay, Edmonton. obviously, right? Wayne, I guess, right? Wayne.
Well, I didn't play with Wayne. I played over 65 games
Against.
against Wayne.
So who was the best player on the team when you were there? Mark?
Well, asking who is the best player on a team is a really tough question. Mark was hurt at the time, so I wouldn't say at that time Mark was the best player at the time. I would say Yari was holding up everything.
Okay.
I mean, he was managing as a leader then, because when Gretzky went to LA, people don't know this. Glenn Sather went to Europe. John Muckler became the coach of the team. I never saw Glenn Sather till Christmas time.
Okay.
Everybody just abandoned the team. It was like, okay, we're going to take this year off.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I arrived there, and everybody's like, well, Messier wasn't playing because his ankle was hurt, and Muckler was coaching. He'd never coached before, and he really was. I mean, John was a great assistant coach in my opinion, but a better assistant coach than head coach. Not a bad head coach, but I thought as an assistant coach, he was amazing.
So when you went to Edmonton, what year was that again?
That would have been 1988.
So all the hoopla it's all gone now. Were they still? I can't recall now. Were they still winning cups?
No, I got so I asked to be traded at Christmas time when Glenn Sather got back from Europe because I was very unhappy. Yeah. So that's when I went to Vancouver.
Okay.
So I got traded to Vancouver, and then that season ended, and then the next season they won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, okay. I knew it was around that.
I just think, you roll the dice with this stuff, right? So I'm in Vancouver with Pat Quinn, right? And they draft Trevor Linden, played with Trevor that whole year, 27 years old, 28 years old. Pat came to me. We weren't going to make the playoffs. He came to me. He said, look, I got a call from Pittsburgh. You can hang around here and just, work with the young guys, or Mario has asked for you to come to Pittsburgh and play with them. And I was like, can you say that? Say that one more time, please, Pat.
Mario.
Just because I was like, he says, well, go away, think about it. I don't know if you know what you want to do. So my wife and I went up to the mountains, up to Whistler for 2 days to talk about it. We already had the conversation before we left, but it was time to go to Pittsburgh, right? Because the opportunity to play with Mario, and he wanted me there, and it was amazing. So I arrived in Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden I'm facing off, and there's Mario on my right side, because he was coming back off his back injury, right? And he was slowly moving back into center. So I'm facing off against Kirk Muller with Mario Lemieux on my right side. Well, all of a sudden.
Kevin Stevens was there too, right? Was Kevin there?
No, I never played with Kevin. I wish I would have played with Kevin. Holy cow, I hated playing against that guy. He was dangerous.
Was he gone? He was gone by then? Because he had that injury. He had his injury, right?
Then it came after.
Oh, he came after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they won a cup the year after. Scotty Bowman got hired.
And how about
I missed it by a year. I mean, there's so many guys that missed it by 5 minutes, right? I missed it by a year on many times.
So Yager wasn't there either.
No. Oh, wow. That was on my bucket list to be able to be out on the ice with them. We ended up sending I've done some work after hockey with Mario and with Sydney and with the guys in Pittsburgh, right? People cancer issues, from Ottawa, field trip to Pittsburgh to meet all the guys. Wow. And it's really worked. We've had remissions and stuff. It's absolutely bizarre.
So who was the star in Vancouver? Is Linden? Was that your star, or he was still a kid?
Yeah, Trevor Linden was there, and they were bringing in the Russians. Okay. So Krutov, Larionov was there. I played with Larionov on the power play in Vancouver, and Krutov, I would have played on the power play with Krutov, but he couldn't keep him out of McDonald's. He came over from, and he got addicted to fast food, and it was
killed him.
It was unbelievable. It may have killed him in the long run. I don't know what happened to him, but he just got so big.
So I just want to recap, and then we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about what's going on today with your career. I mean, we could talk all day.
All day
about the and just to let you know, there's lots of people commenting on our Facebook page. So
and I'd like to share more of these stories with you. We'll get really granular with it. It'll happen.
Before we take a break, I just want to recap. So in LA, it was Marcel Dion. In Buffalo, it was Jobo Perreault. In Edmonton, it was Yari Curry. In Vancouver, it was Linden. In Pittsburgh, it was Mario. And not only that, but
never looked at it that way.
Lafleur was on the ice still. Gretzky.
Oh yeah. And Guy became it. Guy. I'll tell you a story about Guy Lafleur, Doug Smith, and Larry Robinson.
Hold that thought. Yeah. Let's take a quick break. You're watching Press Box. We're here with Doug Smith, the number 2 draft pick of the 1981 draft. This is super exciting. Keep on commenting, people. We love it. We'll be right back.